Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Late Night Q&A with ZodWriter. And tonight, I have the pleasure of interviewing my friend Bill Mclaughlin, aka Old Man Rukus, CEO of Bash Gaming. I'm so excited to be talking to you tonight, Bill. I can't tell you. I mean, I've been waiting for this, ever since, I I thought about it because I was doing some email correspondence with the good our good friends over at Unico,
Right.
and I just couldn't contain how excited I was about the Bash box, about everything
Yes,
you
sir.
guys are working on. This is going to be exciting. You've got a lot of stuff planned for this box,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's it, it's gonna be a big deal here, and I want people to understand right off the top of the bat that
Right.
I may ask you some hard questions tonight,
Supposed
but
to.
at no point are the questions that I'm asking you going to be personal in any way, because you know how I feel about the Bash
Of
Box. You know
course.
how
Of
I feel
course.
about you and everybody involved. And I just want to say
Right.
that
Right.
right off the bat. I am, Unico for life. They made the MVSX my all-time favorite home arcade cabinet of all
Yeah.
time. There's some people working behind the scenes that I deeply respect and I love. I think everybody's great. So none of the stuff that you're going to hear from me, if my questions seem a bit negative, they're not negative. They're just
Right.
things that people are saying, and I just want to set the record straight and get some clarity from you. Now I know I have a tough act to follow because you've been interviewed by She Lion Gaming, and she was very, very thorough with a lot of the questions and things that she asked you, and I kind of tried to avoid her interview for the simple fact that I didn't want to ask you the same stuff, and I kind of wanted to do my own thing. So I'm going to try very hard to do that here, because I don't want you to, especially when you come here, and I'm going to give a little bit of that history too,
Right.
especially when you come here, because when you come here, you know who you're talking to. I know who I'm talking to, so it's not anything. This is not
Right.
our first rodeo
This ain't
together.
our first rodeo.
we've, we've been through some stuff together, and I and
Right.
I
Right.
and I will say, back when you and I first met, one of the great things about it was you were a representative for Unico at the time,
Right.
and I was a defender and a fan of the people who created the Hilo hack for the MVSX, which again is my favorite home arcade cabinet of all time.
Right.
And I mean, you came on, you clarified a whole bunch of stuff, and I believe it was the first live stream that you'd ever been on.
Right.
So I
It
was
was.
I,
It was.
I was I was very, very thankful to have you on, and it was great. And it was an instant friendship between you and I, because we understood where each other was coming from, and the entire thing just made sense. We clarified it all, and any issues that I had with any of those individuals that I was talking about throughout the live stream, all that stuff kind of dissipated towards the end, because I understood. You helped me understand, the legal aspects of it, and some of the scenarios that were going on behind the scenes, some things that I wasn't aware of. And I
Right.
was thankful for that, because at least I had a better grasp and a better understanding of things as a result. And so I think it's very fitting that now that you are coming out with a product that you are working with, where you are working with Unico,
Right. Right.
it's just so perfect that here we are right now talking about this again. And I'm so excited, and I'm very, very happy, and I want to ask you everything that is on my mind about it, and some things that some people DM'd me privately hoping that I would ask you about. I will definitely do that.
Oh yeah.
uh Steps Gaming is here in the chat, as well as Console Fanboy. What's up, Zohar?
Right.
Always a pleasure to see you, brother. Steps Gaming says, I want to know if the Bash box can run Linux and Fightcade. If not, can it run Arcade, Time Crisis, and Naomi games?
So you can run Linux on there because you'll be able to you'll be able to sideload your own OS on there because we're going to keep the bootloader as unlocked as possible that we can do, with Google Play support and with licensor support. I can't comment anymore because I got yelled at by by my partners about what games it can run, but I can tell you that it's very powerful. It's extreme. It can run.
What's the chipset that it has?
It's the 3588.
Okay, so if you know what the 3588 can run, if you're familiar with that, then you should know full well what the Bash box is going to be capable of.
Right. But I can't comment on anything specific. I can't comment on the Fightcade anymore. But there are different tools to be able to run Fightcade on these type of.
Well, here's my question about Fightcade though.
Mm-hmm.
Fightcade is an Android app. You
can
literally run Fightcade on just about anything, right?
Fightcade
phone.
No. Fightcade is designed for x86, x64 systems. So
okay, if
you can run it on Linux because of different types of either Photon or Win, or I'm sorry, Wine. But on ARM64 machine, it's a little bit more work, a little more processing power. So even if Fightcade itself actually did work, I'd be shocked if it could run anything over CPS1. But I've seen different things, different people in the community be able to do some amazing things. So, I don't want to say no right now, but I can't confirm. I mean, I really can't confirm. This isn't one of them confirm or deny.
I love the fact that you're being honest and just simply telling us that you can't confirm, because by letting us know the chipset, technically the chipset is a very powerful chipset. Definitely, and when you mention the chipset, I get excited because I know what that chipset can do.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna, and I gotta give a shout out here to Neo in the chat. Thank you for being here, Neo. Listen, this is another person who, we're all right here. We're all Unico forever. I'm gonna be honest with you.
So let me tell you about Neo. Me and Neo last night.
Talk about Neo.
I bought Donut Dodo last night because I was drunk and I came up with an idea to port Donut Dodo to the MVSX. So I did some things. I think I wrote the script wrong and I sent it to him because the error he's getting is that it's not working. But as I got some more clarity and my hangover wore off this morning before going into work, I saw that it can work. So the actual Donut Dodo that they have that's for the Pi 2 and stuff like that, theoretically, it should work on the MVSX. So I'm going to try and do some things on my dev MVSX today, or tomorrow when I get back to the office to see if it'll actually run Donut Dodo. If it does run Donut Dodo, I'm going to take that info to the Donut Dodo dev to see if they can get an actual build, because they released this. This is, I don't want to pirate their stuff. So, if they're willing to put it on the MVSX and they're, through their itch.io, right, through their itch.io channels, then they'll do that. But right now I'm trying to confirm if it will work, because if it'll work, that'll be something huge for the MVSX community.
See, and this is also, a question I'm going to get into, since you're mentioning porting indie games, because I would consider Donut Dodo to be an indie game. Right, on the iArcade, I would consider it to be an indie game. So if you're porting indie games over to the Bash box, is that one of your major goals for the console, to be able to allow indie creators to sell their games and send them directly to the Bash box?
The whole purpose of the Bash box is more for the indie developers. We're working with major companies too, and I can't, talk about those guys, but we are working with the bigger companies to get different games out there too. But my goal with the Bash box was always for independent developers. It was always to get indie guys to say, okay, this is where your games can have a home. This is where you'll be able to sell your games and they won't get lost in the Steam, because you'll have different games from indie developers that'll get lost with a title like Call of Duty right next to it. And it's hard to say, this game right here will be good versus Call of Duty, where you've never heard of this guy, you never heard of this game. It's somebody who doesn't have any money for marketing, but it could be a great game. If you take a look at what happened with Among Us was out for like a year and some change before it got popular. It just so happens some random YouTuber found it who was pretty popular. I don't even know who that was, but they found it, and then people started playing it, and then it started getting more and more traction because they just got lucky. And it's because Among Us was a great game to begin with, so that's how Among Us got its start. But if they would have had something like the Bash Box, or if they would have had something like what we're trying to do, then Among Us would have already gained in popularity. Then I say all the time, use Bash as a starting point. I tell my devs, use Bash as a starting point. Don't make this your home. And it's not because I don't like these guys. It's because I want to see these guys go on to make the next Call of Duty, to make the next NBA 2K. I've been there with SNK, Unico, Arcade One Up. I've been there with everybody. I want to see other devs. Sorry, I want to see the other devs do the same thing and be able to get their products out there. The whole point of everything from here means that we're going to get developer support, and we're going to support those developers. That's why we even offer developers, when they bring their games to us, if we sell it for them, then they'll get 90% of their royalties, which is vastly vastly more than their 70 and 80 from other stores.
Yeah, and definitely a lot more than they were getting from Papa Brad's Gaming's beloved iArcade. That's for sure. And the Rexer Show is here in the chat, and he says, I run Fightcade on Linux. I feel like it's better on Windows though, and ARM based is way behind for Fightcade.
He's not wrong. Even now, if Fightcade was compiled for ARM, it'd be different. But sorry, I'm sick. But if it was compiled for ARM, it'd be different, because then it could utilize actual native Android libraries and developments from there. But because it primarily uses DirectX, it primarily uses .NET, it'll be hard to put it on something that's not an x86 processor. So he's absolutely right. ARM processors for this, unless it's like even a Snapdragon can't run, something like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 through Fightcade. So, it definitely won't be the same Fightcade experience you get through the Windows machine. But again, that's why also we're working with Unico, because we have our own titles, and once we release our titles through there, you'll still be able to play those online too. So just an alternative compared to when people play Fightcade and be able to go there, because I'm on Fightcade later on tonight to get back in some Breaker's Revenge. So I definitely understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, the Bash Box probably wouldn't handle Fightcade, but we do have our own. Not our own. I don't want to say Fightcade, but with our titles that you'll be able to purchase, you'll be able to play those online.
See, and that's exciting. Being able to play them online, having an established system to be able to play them online. Now I've been getting a lot of messages from people, Bill, that have been telling me that there's a lot of similar boxes out there with similar specs on like AliExpress and other sites all over the world, but those types of sites, AliExpress, that are similar price points to the Bash Box. And the main question, and I don't know if it's necessarily a criticism or just a question that people have, is what is it about the Bash Box in that you could tell us as the CEO and the creator of the Bash Box? What is it that you could tell us that separates the Bash Box from all these other quote unquote similar options on the market today that have similar chipsets, similar specs? I mean, what is it about the Bash Box that makes the Bash Box stand out and is the leader in the pack?
So,
in your view,
let me give you a good example. You remember when a Shield TV came out?
Yeah.
Now, when a Shield TV came out, Tegra X1, it had games like Borderlands. It had games like Metal Gear Rising. It was running that Tegra X1 chip, right? So when you got the Nintendo Switch that was running the same hardware, you see where I'm going with this? You got different games, you got different experience that you couldn't get with the Shield TV. So even at the time, the actual Shield TV games that you couldn't bring over to the Switch, but eventually some of them got ported, some of them didn't. You basically got a different experience with the Bash Box. You're paying for the experience. You're paying for being able to get different titles. You're paying for support. The licensed titles you'll have, the much different level of connectivity within different objects too. Because let's take a Rock Pie. Rock Pie, I got one. I got a Rock Pie 3588, 16 gigs, eMMC with I think it was like 64 gigs. I think I only spent $130 for it. Now I got this because this was something I wanted to observe. I wanted to see exactly what the 3588 could do. Even with at Games Pinball, I got one of those coming because I need to see exactly what other people are capable of pushing out there. So when I'm working with indie developers, then I'm able to help them push more out of what they're able to do.
So wait, you ordered the Addams Family pinball?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And it's because one, I'm not a huge fan of pinball.
I'm not either. I'm not a pinball guy at all.
At the same time, a lot of questions I've gotten were based on pinball. So we've loaded up Zen Pinball. We got they actually had tables like the Addams Family. They had Family Guy. They had Street Fighter tables. They had there's like hundreds of tables in Zen Pinball. Now, granted, you could get Zen Pinball on the same Rock Bite machine. Now, with ours, we're trying to work differently to say, hey, if we can support it, we're going to have multiple monitors. If we can, thanks, Kung Fu Bad Boy. I just saw his thing come up there. I just saw a couple of things up there, so I'm not ignoring you guys. But there's definitely going to be a lot different with the Bash Box versus getting another OS, because just like with the arcade, you got an arcade, it was running at $33.99. You could get that same $33.99 board for like $100, but getting it customized, getting it to do what the arcade could do. To customize a PCB cost a lot more money.
That's why you need the developers. That's why
there's a whole believe me, and even then, that was initially we were going to do this without a controller, and I go back and forth with myself on that. But I also think about the fact that this is going to be pick up and play. This isn't going to be just an emulation box. You could play whatever you want to play on here, but I'm not loading this up with ROMs other than ROMs we're licensed for. I'm not loading this up with different games that we're not licensed for. You'll be able to go and get whatever game you want from the Bash store that's going to come later on this year. You'll be able to get what you want from Google Play. You'll be able to get what you want from Unico. Now, the Unico connectivity is different because the games you have on the Bash box a lot of it that you buy, you can also bring to the Nova Blast. So when the Nova Blast, their board comes, whatever game you bought on the Bash box or Nova Blast, you can bring back and forth. And you could play against each other on both systems. So it's a lot to it.
I'm getting vibes here and thoughts, and correct me if I'm wrong before I read Console Fanboy's super chat. Mm-hmm. I'm getting thoughts here along the lines of kind of what Unico wanted to do with the MVSX, which was there were plans that initially they were going to start offering additional titles, and they were going to make them available exclusively through their ecosystem. But they would have had to have set up like a storefront and all that. And Bash is going to have a storefront?
Right. Bash is going to have a storefront. Our storefront is going to launch later in the year. So all the indie titles that we have that we're getting with the couple of guys that's coming with us, along with Bash's first-party games, a couple that we haven't released, Brass Hollow Point, for example, will be on there that we haven't released yet, and Zone Blaster and a couple other games that we were waiting for. Those games will be there by default. Those we'll also have retro titles that we have licensed. Those will be on Global Match because that'll go back and forth with Unico's Global Match system. And you'll be able to grab games from either Google Play. You'll be able to grab games from itch.io because it's still an Android console. So you'll be able to get your games the same way you could get them on your phone as well. So you have the same functionality that you have there, plus you have additional resources in order to get different games that you can't get on these normal Android tablets.
And the online functionality is going to work through Bash's own system?
So there's two different ways. So with Bash games, you have Bash Connect that we upgraded since iArcade because we're not using iArcade servers anymore for that connectivity. We're running off of completely new infrastructure. So you'll have Bash Connect that's been upgraded. Then you'll have Unico's Global Match system, which when you buy games from there, you'll also be able to play online through there too. So you'll have you'll have your Google account, you'll have your Bash account, you'll have your Global Match account.
Okay. And $9.99 super chat from Console Fanboy. Thank you, Zohar. He says, Bill, I'm excited to see what you do with this project. And if John D is involved, I already know it's going to be next level. He's a legend in this space. 100% support your journey, Bill.
Appreciate that.
I agree 100% with everything Console Fanboy has said in the super chat. I mean,
Oh yeah.
It's you've come a hell of a long way, Bill. Okay, from from hacking the MVSX to
Well,
creating your
even
own
before the MVSX,
console. Yeah,
it was the Neo Geo Mini. Then we went to the ASP because back then it was actually it was just me and Hilo. So
yeah.
when we did the Neo Geo Mini, it was because it was kind of out of necessity because nobody actually knew, or nobody really wanted to tackle the Neo Geo Mini at the time. So me and Hilo were I was doing different things, and at the time I didn't know nearly as much as I do now. But thanks to Hilo, thanks to Ryan Souders, Honky Kong, they taught me a lot more about being a software engineer. So that's why I can do a lot of stuff that I can do now.
And I love because you did do a video not too long ago on your channel, which if you're not subscribed to Bill, by the way, I did link his YouTube channel in the description for you to check it out. He's actually got you've actually got a couple videos, I think, where you're demoing some of the stuff on the Bash box.
Right. So I got a lot of games that I got from Google Play, and I didn't. It was somebody. I think it was a Kyo Dakin. Actually, Rexer too. It was Rexer actually said the same thing that these things come from Google Play. But then I had to start putting games that aren't on Google Play. I just started putting games that you can't just buy from Google Play or
there's got to be Bash. There's got to be really good Bash exclusives. You got to have reasons. That exclusivity is one of the things that I think is going to make the Bash console a must-have in the sense that, especially if you can play them online.
Right. So the whole idea with this is that, again, I've talked on many shows that this console is not making me any money. I'm retired Army. I'm going to be paid regardless. So yeah, I'm good. But within this title, within the system, it was everything. The reason why it costs as much as it does is because of the fact that, one, the controllers got the controller wasn't like $50. It cost about 20 or something like that to make. Then the console was 200 to to produce out there, and then developers get paid, and then my guys get paid. So I make sure everybody who worked on this, who the 3 a.m. calls with Ryan, the multiple calls with Mensa, and then now that Dom's back, the back to the 3 a.m. calls with him, a lot of people gave a lot of work with a lot of these things. So when you're working on a lot of these products, I make sure these guys get paid.
See, right then and there, you're putting your developers first, which is a beautiful thing. It's a great thing to see. And again, this is another reason why people should be excited, because if the developers are happy, the games come out better.
Very much so.
Absolutely.
Much so.
And the Rexer show says if John D is involved, he will be overpaying for licenses.
Well, I can't comment on that.
That's an opinion.
I have to leave his opinion. I have to leave his opinion to him, but I could just say I definitely didn't overpay for these licenses that I got.
Adam Stone wants to know what we got going on here, and his question is: does Bashbox own the licenses to Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter?
Cannot comment on licenses right now. I can only comment on license closer to launch.
And we got Steps Gaming, $1.99 super chat. Thank you, Steps. She says, could SNK titles be online on the Bashbox?
I can't comment on this one. Like I can't talk about licensed titles right now. Again, I got a couple partners who yelled at me about talking about it before. So
you can't talk about licenses, but you can definitely tell us that you are dealing with some big licenses, though, so people can draw their own conclusions.
So I can't. I don't even want to infer what licenses we have. Just know we have those titles coming, and those licensed retro titles are going to be on the global match side. We have independent developers that are going to be on the Bashbox side that says, "Hey, this is where we're going to go with with the indie developers," because the whole point of this, again, it's not necessarily for retro. It's not for emulation and stuff like that. Unico's working on it, and Unico's providing a lot of the manufacturing, so of course their product is going to be there. But the cool thing with going back with global match, once your account is set up in global match, your account set up in Global Match. You bring your game from Bashbox to the Nova Blast with their board, and you could have the same games, and you can also play against those same people.
Yeah.
Am I familiar with the Super Console?
I was gonna read it out to know if
Yeah.
you're familiar with it.
I am. I
I'm
actually have one.
familiar with it too.
Yeah, I very much so have one. And the cool thing about that, the Super Console X5 Pro, it's kind of like the same thing we get with Glenn's thing. Again, I'm not dissing Glenn at all. Glenn's product is, basically an upgrade for the iArcade. It's super dope. I've seen a Viper in action. I've seen Bobby Vu play with it. So when mine gets here, it's going right in my iArcade too. So I've seen a lot of these products, and the thing that I want to do to differentiate the Bashbox from these is, again, exclusivity. Having different games that, one, they're licensed, you have support for a system, and a lot of these titles are going to be back and forth with these. No, it can't run 3 screens simultaneously. It can run 2.
I was just gonna say, Papa Brad wants to know if it can run 3 screens.
It has the capability to, because our board is actually a little bit more powerful than the At Games board, but it has the capability to. We don't have it.
That would mean if it's a little more capable than the At Games board, that would put you in a different bracket. Papa Brad, you better pay attention to this, because you're the one claiming that At Games was building the Death Star. So if the Bash box is a little more powerful than At Games
this is
board,
just based on specs I've seen,
based on specs
I've seen online. Because I've seen it, they have the same 35. I think they're using the 3588S, which doesn't really provide a power. There's not a power difference between the S and the normal one. But I believe they're using 4 gigs. If I'm wrong, please correct me, because it's definitely I definitely want to make sure I'm giving accurate information. But if the At Games Legends 4K can run 3 screens, then the Bashbox can do it too with development support. I didn't think about developing 3 screens at once, because it's Bashbox. It's for your home console. It's for your home system. You want to, most people that were the audience that we're targeting, especially the guys who pre-ordered it now, they're either going for the iArcade, or they're having just another system at home that's an alternative to that. It's just like saying. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I've got the little Team Encoder board for the iArcade, and I still haven't installed that or anything. I'm like sitting here thinking, man, I'm excited for the Bash box, because you can put the Bash box in a cabinet, correct?
Right. And the thing is, it's Glenn's making he's got tools coming that'll be able to work with his board, with the GRS stick, which Vince has got one, and it looks, oh my god, man. I wish I'd have got one when I had the chance. But when those were with that, it'll work from there. We also got Nix, who's working on a different product that'll plug directly into the to the iArcade, because we have different connectors that you can use for this type of thing. So it's not like you're using HDMI or stuff like that. You actually have the GPIO connections that for ribbon cables that could go different areas. Most of that is going to be more for the it's going to be for the Nova Blast as well. So when you hit the Bashbox to the Nova Blast, and then there's a couple of connectors that'll also interface with the NVSX.
All right, and Neil wants to know: will the box be locked from adding your own stuff, though?
So technically, it never can really be, because you have Google Play support, and you'll have file manager support. You'll be able to buy games from itch.io and sideload those on there too. This is still an Android console, so as you get games from Android, you'll be able to put those games on there.
So there's nothing stopping you from adding your own content if you want to, because you have other options within the console itself to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Adam wants to know, Bill, what games come included right now with the purchase?
So I put 10 up on a website. I got to you'll see it back tomorrow, because we took the website down because we had to redo it because of the new partnership that we just gained that I can't talk about today. So I had to take the website down. But tomorrow you'll be able to see the first 10, and then you'll be able to see the next 20 and closer to launch. It'll be around April.
All right. And the bad guy Mike Worley says he just subbed to Bill.
Thank you.
All right. And now, okay, I'm going to read Papa Brad. I'm going to read your comment, because I assume you're coming from a position of ignorance, but I'm not sure. He says, if you are using food stamps to buy energy drinks, you are not getting Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter for your Bash box. What top tier games come with the system?
So, Papa Brad, it's funny to say that. Just because I don't have a lot of money doesn't mean that the 3 or 4 people I'm working with don't have a lot of money. And these 3 or 4 people I'm working with, you guys kind of go there. You go there with them. So once more and more comes out about what's happening with these, then people will say, "Oh, well, then people will complain about something else." So
Listen,
people,
I'm actually finding it funny that Papa Brad. It's actually ironic that Papa Brad would say something like this, considering how he was the world's biggest shill for the iArcade until he wasn't. You see what I'm talking about? It's like, remember, iArcade is the future, and then he's got his iArcades up on Marketplace because, well, I guess the future came and went.
so I learned my lesson about negatively engaging with trolls because again, going back to my partners, they yelled at me about the issue with Rexer, which, to be quite honest with you, I already did a stream on that where I acknowledged where I definitely went too far with being personal towards them.
Here's the thing though.
Mhm.
Everybody is going to have questions because it's a new console. Everybody's going to want to know because people want to know how it applies to them and what they want.
Right.
I watched, the video that Rexer did on your on the Bash box.
Right.
And while, he did make a lot of valid points, as you acknowledged
Oh, yeah.
in
Oh, yeah.
your video that you did, your follow-up video that you did later on,
Right.
about the questions, about the specs, about who it's for, about
Yep.
what, and all of that stuff. And that's what these kinds of things are for. These kinds of forums are for you to come on and tell us what it is about the Bash box that is
Oh, yeah.
going to be stand out. And this is why I'm super, super appreciative that you're here, because you're answering all the questions and you're telling us what you can tell us. And apart from the fact that you can't tell us about licensing, which is
Right.
a big thing, I'm sure once you are able to speak on licensing, you will.
Oh,
So
of course.
that's
Of course. So
definitely
people
something to
forget.
look forward to.
Yeah, people forget that I'm very, very much the same guy who was infamously in trouble for leaking his own, not just leaking my own stuff, but hacking my own stuff, hacking, giving everybody access to things. And I stopped doing it as much because obviously, I'm here. But even with the bash box, I'll probably wind up doing the same thing. Now it's mine because so I can, once I satisfy licensors, once I satisfy investors, once I satisfy people who handed me all this money to say, okay, here you go, we believe in you, then this is where I'm going to go. Okay, once all that's done, here you go. Here's some more stuff to do. Here's some stuff that you didn't think you could do. There's things that I wish I could do now that I'm pretty sure I'll be able to do in the future because once my skill level gets up, plus I have Ryan with me, so there's very little we can't do. But you also got to remember, I was the same guy who worked on many at games products. I'm sorry, many at games games that we put out there. We did. I'm one of the guys who did the Activision and the data specs. Ryan was the same dude who bought a lot of those titles to the iArcade. So funny story with the iArcade is that back then, before the Space Invaders and stuff like that, Space Invaders was actually made by Mike Svabeck. He built that from scratch. That was actually dope. But a lot of these titles, John came to me and said, "Hey, Bill, do you know anything about ROM hacking?" I said, "John, of course I do. Where do you think I came from?" But Ryan was actually the king and taught me everything I knew, and he did a lot of this work where he was working with us, and at the time he needed an actual job. So my thought process was, John was offering me a lot of money. I said, look, can we convert that to getting my man a job? So that's how Ryan became, one of the workers at iArcade. And even with that, me and him both still tackle a lot of their projects. I think it's been leaked out what they did, but I still can't talk about it because of NDAs that don't expire until next year. But there was a lot of games that were supposed to
be a
jump to
good
iArcade.
show. That's going to be a good show.
When my NDA is up with iArcade, I'm talking
You're
about
coming
everything.
back here. You're coming back here when
everything.
that comes up. You're coming back here.
But the games that you do know are out. The Operation Wolves, the Legend of Kage. There was like 2 or other games that, one specifically that I really wanted to get out, that again, once that comes out, I'm talking about that one all the time. But there was like two or three games that I wanted to get out that we couldn't because of the 33.99 limitations. And even then, we found a way around that, just kind of like we did with Bloodstorm, because Bloodstorm wouldn't work on iArcade's emulator itself. A lot of our games wouldn't work on iArcade's emulator, it wouldn't work, with processing. So that's why our games had their own emulation.
Our arcade's the future. I guess the future just passed us all by, huh?
I don't. So here's the kicker with iArcade. Now it also goes back to a thing I talked about in my stream about Bashbox being Ouya 2.0. I've been latching on to this theory, and the reason why is because the Ouya started something that it never got to finish, and there was a lot of different things within the Ouya that they tried to do right. It's a lot of things they did wrong. There was a lot of things that happened that went wrong. And when I watched Damien deal with his video, he's probably got like 100 views just for me, but I went and watched it because it was the fact that it's he was absolutely right. When he talked about the game stick, he talked about the Ouya. He still had it though. He bought the Ouya. He bought the game stick, and it's not a slight against him at all. It was that these are products that you thought would work, and the Bashbox has a hurdle lead around that this has been done before, and it's been done by the iArcade. It's trying to be done by At Games. It was done with different products that didn't make it for one reason or the other. How can the Bashbox make it? How can the Bashbox separate itself from what they did wrong and what they didn't do? Especially, when we start talking about a few things that, again, it can't go into all the partnerships, but, there's like two different things that people thought were dead that the Bashbox was going to revive. And even within that, it's that how can we do things differently? And that's a question that I've been having to go back and forth with myself to say, this is how we do this right. This is how this goes from there. And this is how this stuff works. So I watched Damien deal with his video multiple times. It was criticism. Don't get me wrong, but he was absolutely right. I went back to Rex's video. I looked at it with a different set of eyes.
Right.
Things he was talking about, even things he's saying here, that there's different boxes that can do different things. Super Console X5. What makes the Bashbox different from Super Console X5 is that it's exclusivity. These are things that are easier to show. But what separates me from the Shield TV? The Shield TV is still in the market. Shield TV is really realistically the Ouya 2.0. Shield TV is still in the market. Shield TV is $200. But the Bashbox is technically more powerful than that. But what makes us different than that? These are the questions that all of it I don't have answers to be quite honest with you. There's things like Amazon Luna that I don't see making it. There's things like Google Stadia that didn't make it. There's things like different cloud things as well that didn't make it, but what did? Game Pass made it. Why did Game Pass make it? Because of the games. And that's where I focus on, is making sure the games that we have, especially with going with independent developers, are the things that people are going to want to come back to. People are going to want to come back to the next Among Us. People are going to want to come back to the next Super Hot. Not saying none, those games can come to the Bashbox. I don't have Super Hot licensing, but if they wanted to make these games for the, a developer like that, where they're first starting out, don't have the resources to be able to market the same way, bring it to the Bashbox. We'll help you market. You'll get more money out of, you'll get more money per capita from it. At the same time, you're able to get your game in front of people, get their game in people's faces to say, oh, cool, I can play this here where I couldn't play this before. And then eventually people will say, hey, I want to play this on my Xbox. I want to be able to play this with my friends on PS5. You use the Bashbox as your starting point, because if you go through Microsoft, to go through the ID at Xbox, the ID at Xbox team with games, and they don't like your game, they'll say, okay, or, if they don't approve it the first time, they'll say, get your sales up in other places, get your sales up within this realm, bring those sales numbers to us, and we'll we'll put your game out. And that's how you get started. And this is what I'm doing this for. I'm doing this for these guys.
And Adam Stone here says that question hasn't been answered. What games are coming included? Keep seeing games that the system won't have. So can you talk about any of the exclusives that for a fact are bundled with the Bashbox?
So I just put like 4 or 5 videos up not too long ago with different compilations of games that are coming on that are coming to the Bashbox, like the Heavy Metal Titans, the 4K edition, the Bashbox, the Bash Force Roll in 2024, Tank Bash is supposed to be coming as well, but we're doing it differently than we did it for the iArcade, because right now the iArcade version, I'm still trying to fix. I'm still trying to get working. I'm working with Mike DeSalvo to get that working. There's other titles that are coming exclusively to the Bash. Brass Hollow Point is probably the biggest one, because that's it's going to be our first person / third person shooter. It's going to be in the vein of different military style shooters. It's going to be the vein in Call of Duty, the Nova threes, Brothers in Arms, those type of games. That's what Brass Hollow Point is going to be. It's going to be all online though, so it's definitely it's going to be something different, and that's what makes the Bash Box different, is that we're doing things a lot differently.
Now, I'm not sure. I thought you answered this earlier, but Neo is saying, does your online platform allow for bring your own games?
Neo, Jay is going to kick my ass if I answer that question right now.
That's what I was going to say. This is coming from Neo. So Neo knows.
Neo, there's things I could talk about with Neo that can't talk about everybody else, because of I can't talk about what actual people are, what we're talking about here. But Neo also has NDAs with Unico, so I could talk to Unico.
Well, yeah, Neo is straight up awesome. Adam wants to know, if you can't talk about licenses, then what are people buying right now?
So right now, people are buying the Bash Box. You're buying a system that's going to have multiple titles on there. It's just like when people bought pre-ordered the Mega Drive, because the Mega Drive Classic, the NES Mini Classic, because you didn't know what games are going to be on there either, until later on and closer to launch. That's not the model I wanted to do. It's just the model I have to do because of the fact that it's the partners that I'm working with. We have to do things time. There's investors. There's this whole bureaucracy thing that I hate doing, but I have to do it while I'm here, because I got to appease investors. I got to appease the licensors. I got to appease everybody here. I got to make sure this stuff can get here. So people don't want me to talk about it anymore that I talked about. There's a lot of things that we had before that we had to get rid of stuff. It's just a lot that's coming with the Bash Box, and a lot of things right now on what's happening with this.
Steps Gaming says, good luck with everything, Bill. I just came here tonight because I really don't know much about the Bash Box and wanted to know more. Integrity 101, you guys that are looking for about the link, Bill had to take the link down temporarily because there's a new version of that website going to be going up.
Right, and so I can't talk. The things that I put up, I had up for like 5 seconds, and I don't think anybody saw it. But right. I had to take it down. So we're rebuilding the website. The website will be back up tomorrow. Hope if we're able to show off this new partner, then I'm going to show it off. If not, it won't be there, but it'll look a lot like it did last time.
Yeah, and meanwhile, At Games is building the Death Star.
That's cool. So can't have games in BYOG online, round sets be exact. I can't talk about this one. So, cool. And again, I'm sorry, Rexer, just can't talk about it. iArcade is almost 1K. Games added, best thing for me. That's dope. That's cool.
Yeah, I guess I don't think it would take a community a long time to figure out what cores are being used on that.
What makes people think we're using multiple cores? In case people forgot, we have our own emulation platforms too. Like I don't know if people don't realize or not, but there's Time Killers was done straight from source. Time Killers and Bloodstorm were done straight from source. The rest of those, we had to use a completely tore down and customized version of MAME in order to get that to work, because you have stuff like Ninja Clowns, for example. Ninja Clowns on the iArcade, it had completely messed up graphics. It just was bad. So we had to completely tear down MAME and rebuild with a lot of the MAMEs from scratch.
And Papa Brad's Gaming is correcting me, saying I have not sold any iArcades. Yeah, I know. I tried to sell mine for $50 and nobody wanted it. So I mean, I'm not saying that you've. When I said you sold it, it was because I saw you put one of them up on Marketplace. And I do have a screenshot when you put it up on Marketplace. So you did put it up to be sold, but the fact that you haven't sold it, isn't news to me, because again, I tried to sell mine for $50 and nobody wanted it. So I can imagine you're having the same problem Brad, that I was having. Meanwhile, At Games is building the Death Star. And we got PD7 in the chat. What's up, Phil? Good to see you. Let's see here.
So I'm actually interested in this At Games Death Star.
Hey, okay.
I'm interested in. I'm a gamer. I don't care what game you play. I've been taking the Xbox approach before Xbox currently. What they're doing is like, all right, we just want you to play Xbox games. You play it on Xbox, play it on your computer, play wherever you want. I'm pretty sure if you really dig into it, I'm almost positive there's no browser on a PS5 for two reasons. One, that you could access Xbox Game Pass and play the games in the cloud. Two, it definitely opens up for hacking.
Well, here's a question I have then. You're not stopping anybody from playing games in the cloud, right? So if you want to use Bashbox to play Xbox in the cloud, you can. Nothing's stopping you.
I've even thought about cloud support with certain titles. And again, I don't have the money that my investors got. And they said, we want to see later on if this will work. But I definitely have tried. I definitely went to certain people and say, hey, can I get Virtual Fighter 5 and play this in the cloud? And they said, no, get out of my face. So I couldn't make the things happen that I want to make happen, but I definitely attempted to get some of this stuff out of there.
And Console Fanboy says it's okay. Now At Games is the future.
So here's the thing about At Games. At Games is a staple. At Games PK has been in this business a long time. PK used to sign my checks too. So I have no bad blood towards any of these people. I've worked with iArcade. I worked with At Games. I worked with Arcade One Up. Bash is the only company who's worked with almost everybody. We worked with at least the top three because that's what we do. We're going to build a game for whoever gives us money. We pretty much will dev for food, but it's always been, I want people to play the game. People have said, if we're doing this, we're locking this stuff down. What about the games that you make? Pirate it. I've done this before, when people have literally technically pirated Tank Bash when it was leaked out for the iArcade. I didn't get mad. I opened up the servers so more people could play, because when I saw there was like an influx of like 100 people, then it became 500 people were playing Tank Bash. I just opened up the servers. I was like, what happened? Then I looked at the iArcade page and said, oh, there's a whole leak out there. All right, cool. Well, people playing Tank Bash. I wanted people to play Tank Bash. Cool, have fun. I opened up the server, added new connections on there. So I kept that connection up there because now it's going to the Bash box anyway. So I still need that amount of space, and it's on PC. So all these people playing these games, I don't care if you pirate games. If you can't spend the $4.99 to play bowling, actually you can have it. I will. I don't care. Again, this isn't going to make me $1 million. I'm going to be paid for the rest of my life.
And it's $4.99 on Steam right now. Just for those who want to know about Bash Bowling.
Every couple of weeks that I think about it, I bring it down to 99 cents. If somebody comes to me and say, hey Bill, I've thought about bowling. Oh, cool. I go on Steam, I bring it down to 99 cents. And I don't do that because I care.
It's a good price, but I already bought it on the iArcade. It's one of the games that when I go on iArcade, I go back to and I do play it, from time to time. $4.99 super chat from Console Fanboy. He says Brad can't sell his iArcades since his iArcades are all joined at the hip.
I'm not coming in here talking negative about none of them.
It's so funny. I love it. I love the back and forth, the banter. It's hilarious. Wow, this chat is nuts. I'm in the same place as Rexer, Console Fanboy, Papa Brad, and Damien deal with it. Wow, maybe this is the Death Star. Great show. Hey, thanks a lot. This is the thing. This is what I like to do. This is a staple of me, of ZodWriter. If you watch my content, I like to bring people together, regardless of what your personal differences may or may not be. I mean, I did it before a couple of different times, and it seems to work. I don't, everybody, you're allowed to say your opinion. You're allowed to speak your piece. As long as you're being respectful, I'm not blocking anybody. I'm not, getting rid of anybody. I'm not kicking anybody out. It's all good. Hey, listen.
My thing is where I went wrong is that I went personal to Rexer when I shouldn't have, but I my actual friends are like you, She Lion, Mike B. These are friends of mine. P Dubs. These are friends of mine. UAG. These are my people. UAG. I've had to yell at him about what happened, what he did. A lot of stuff he did was wrong, but his brother. That's my brother, and I love him to death. I'm gonna make sure I yell at him because the world's going to kick his ass. I want to make sure. All right, cool. You got your ass kicking. You got to do things right. You're going to have to accept that people aren't going to accept you right away. Cool. But I also understand what he did was wrong. Cool. I'm not going to harp on it. What I do, I don't even harp on the other people who diss me, or even the super public beef I had with Rexer. You know what I mean? I went on there. I said my piece. I said I apologize. Let it go. You know what I mean? I'm not going back and hampering him. I don't have to like him. I don't have to be in his space. But I will definitely say he made a couple of solid points that made me look different. Again, I had to go back and look at the show with a different set of eyes and a lot of alcohol, because that's where I am right now. But that's what he's not wrong.
Well, good. Keep drinking. We'll talk about licenses in a little while.
No. That ain't never coming out. You're not going to get me.
Oh God, I'm just kidding though. Neo says I have a generic development RK3588 board. It can handle Dreamcast, Naomi, a Thomas Wave, PS2, GameCube. I have a Steam Deck and have one Steam game. Everything else is emulation, and I love it. Neo, you're doing right. I have a handheld that came out to compete with the Steam Deck a year and a half ago. It's called the Ein Odin, and it runs everything right now that you just mentioned. And I have a very similar setup. Everything is emulation, and I've got like maybe one PC game running on there. Everything else is all emulation, and it's running fantastic.
I have an Xbox Series X that can do literally the same thing. And I have an Arcade 35 board that can do the same thing. A Tegra X1 boards. I have boards for everything. What I don't have is the ability to play games that other people, I even if I have the ability to play it, I can't find them. I can't find a lot. I see sometimes on Facebook, I go to the indie developers groups. I see a lot of times they have these awesome games that I'll try out. I'll go out there. I support all indie devs, especially, in this field. But, I'll go out, I'll buy it. And I'm like, wow, this game is dope. Like nobody wants to play it because it might not be a lot of people's cup of tea. It might not be this, but a lot of these titles, I'm even on my Xbox now, except for Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6 and Call of Duty, it's full of indie games. I was playing House Flipper the other day. I was playing Brotato. There's a lot of different indie games that are just sitting on my Xbox, including my own. But
did you get the community development thing that was released for Xbox that lets you add your own stuff?
So I had that before, but I'm also an official Xbox developer. So
I figured you were an official developer. Yeah.
So I don't have, but even then, it's like it's not the development kit. It's just they give me different options with developer. When you set up developer mode, you get a different interface screen. So when you have your company credentials in there, it's a little bit different than when you get the indie. Yeah. They give you access to more of the Xbox itself, but it's Bowling 2024 and Tank Bash, so you don't need the extra resources. I can see something like Tekken 8 that clearly overheats my Xbox all the time, but with my titles, they're not going to overheat because I'm not doing AAA level titles right now. At the same time, my Xbox is full of indie titles. I see so many different indie devs with no place for this. And then even in, I worked out a partnership with a company out in India because they don't have any support for anybody. And a lot of people from here, what they do is they pay for, he said the same thing I did. They pay for these India developers to make some of these titles. I can't even talk about a lot of the titles that are made using Indian developers. And I'm like, well, look, if you're going to develop these titles, sell them yourself. And then I worked out a deal with those guys. So a lot of bash boxes are going to India too. And they're going to have a completely different store. They're going to have a completely different set of games too, that some of them may come back here. Some of them may not.
So the licensing the licensing is different all over the world, right? So you have regions where certain things will be available.
Right. It will be
Okay.
it'll be in different regions, but everything is compatible. It's not like it's region locked or anything. It's just that the Indian community has their own storefront that they're going to bring here too. And once they figure out how to, work with the American currency, they plan on releasing that over here too.
Yeah. Steps Gaming says, I don't care about YouTube crap that has happened that doesn't really matter in life. At the end of the day, I just want to give Bill props for continuing to try for his goals and dreams with gaming. Yeah, but yeah, Bill's doing a fantastic job. See, this is the whole point. I'm sitting here, like I said, I couldn't be more excited because this is someone who clearly has a passion and a love for this stuff and just wants to bring the best product possible out for everybody. And the fact that this box is going to give so many options and provide people with so many different avenues for which to play their games, it's definitely something to be excited about. So just to clarify what Neo keeps bringing up, it is not necessarily a closed system.
Right.
I'm letting Bill do his thing on the cost in here. I'm just telling you all that this 3588 chipset is capable of running a lot of great things.
I cannot tell you just how right he is on this.
Well, see, Neo can tell us, right? If I can go in and I'll send an email to Jay and be like, hey Jay, does Neo have the authority to be saying all this stuff? He's just talking about a chipset.
Right. How me and Neo met was I tell the story. He said, "Oh, it's not like that all the time," but I always say it is because it's when we first put out the Hilo stick, we didn't have I just put out something that you could use to put in games. I'm not good at the marketing portion. Neo was always the man for that. Neo also had these themes. He had these graphics. He was able to do things that I was like, holy shit, that's dope. And I would go on, I saw different things when he was working with the other hacks that were put out there. I saw, a lot of things that he was doing. He was like, hey, Bill, I got some suggestions for you. I said, well, you mind doing it because I suck at this. You want to help us? That's how we all got started. It was a lot of things for a lot of that different type of stuff that working with Neo. That's how all this stuff came in. Me and Neo, we went different paths because he stuck with Neo with Unico with a lot of stuff, and then I went on with Bash. But I follow him daily to see what he's doing. I'm telling you, I was just on him with him last night, drunk, trying to get Donut Dodo working on the MVSX. So hey, Neo, that's my brother for life. I say this all the time. And he knows there's a lot of different things that we're trying to do. There's things I'll tell him, I won't tell other people.
All the great stuff that has been able to get run on the MVSX it's just phenomenal. I mean, when they got Retro Arch running on the MVSX, and it was just like you could boot up so much stuff. I legitimately just think that to me, this is the reason why the MVSX is the best home arcade. So offline home arcade option, period.
So we had, even within, there's a whole new Halo Stick team right now. And they're doing, Jay Hawk is doing some super stuff with his new Final Burn Alpha, the Hawk edition, the 100 megahertz edition.
Oh, the one where you can go and you can go into the menu and you can make adjustments really, really easily. I think you just hold the start button and it takes you to that red menu, and you can adjust.
And he created a new renderer where it's playing so much faster than it did with us, faster than I thought we could do. So even
they got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles running.
Yeah, and because when I tried to get something where Ninja Turtles would run, and I gave everybody that too. I was like, look, I have an idea how to get this right. It was actually Honky Kong Ryan who worked with me on this one. And I was like, all right, this is what I'm seeing. This is how we could do this differently. I made this change. I broke stuff. He said, okay, this is how you go back and do this again. I went back, fixed that, got Ninja Turtles running, but we couldn't fix the dial. So what wound up happening is Jay Hawk, he reached out to me. He was like, hey man, can you give me some tips on starting with the MVSX? Because I know you guys have been busy doing other things, so he's going to he's trying to do his own thing. I say, look, here's my documentation, here's my source, do what you gotta do. Have fun. It's like, I mean, look, you called me if you need any help with anything you need, from there. He's taken everything and he's made it his own, and I'm so grateful for that. So he's kept the legacy on. And not just that, it works with everything else too. So it's like,
and it's fantastic to be able to have, the best of the old high-low with a bunch of the new features thrown in to make a great addition. It's wonderful.
even with the NBSX, it was when we first started, Hilo actually technically he went to school. He was becoming a doctor now. He's an actual practicing doctor, but he he left. It was Acme Plus and Honky Kong who were technically Hilo. And that's when we started working on some bigger projects from there. But Acme Plus and Honky Kong are the guys who took over for Hilo, and look what they did.
Man, it would be, oh my God. I'm getting, the writer in me is thinking of all the different ways that this could be documented as some type of a biography of some sort. I mean, who knows, Bill? Maybe I'll do it, write your biography after the Bash Box becomes this super smash hit that we all know it's going to become. Neo says, I understand the concept of a central hub for indie devs. Those titles get lost in Steam and Switch Shop. Evercade physical releases are cool, but super niche. So this is a cool concept. And he also has a question here for you, Bill. He says a good question. Will all indie games available on the Bash Box be online?
That's up to the developers to make them online. So all of the indie titles that are coming out there, some of them are single player experiences, some of them aren't. But at least with our games, there's 2 that won't be online because they're single player, but the rest of them are.
Awesome. So that really allows for, if you're going to be able to play, and that's what people want now. It's like the main draw of everything. It's the reason why people keep buying these arcade 1-ups. It's not because they need, 30 million different ways to play Mortal Kombat. They don't have 30 million different ways to play Mortal Kombat. It's because they want to be able to play online.
Right. So
they don't go to arcades anymore. So they want to be able to play at home online on a cabinet. So
even with games like that, eventually you get tired of playing the same Mortal Kombat. You go back to Fightcade. You get tired of playing the same Street Fighters. You go back to Fightcade. You get tired of playing the same games you could play in Fightcade. Eventually, I play Street Fighter 6 pretty regularly. I play Tekken 8 pretty regularly. I have Street Fighter 2. I've bought Street Fighter 2 like 30 different ways. I have at least 8 different versions of Street Fighter 2 that are all physical copies of something. So we have it's different ways to play these. You want different ways to play different games, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Adam says, if Bash Box goes under like iArcade or other companies, how will we access our games and purchases?
That's an amazing question. I'm glad he brought that up. We've been talking about different ways. One, I don't want to have them DRM'd anyway. If a developer wants to have them DRM'd, if the event comes where we have to start production on the servers or what have you from there, I'll make sure these titles, everything you bought on the Bash Box that at least comes for Bash, that I can't say for the global match, it's a little bit different because that goes to Unico, and Unico will have their own system. So even if it's not on the Bash Box, you can bring Global Match wherever you go. Whatever you buy in Global Match, it'll stay in Global Match no matter which you put Global Match on. So if you get the Nova Blast and Bash Box isn't around anymore and you still have a Nova Blast, your games will still be on the Global Match from there. But Bash games, if you have a Bash Box and those games that you have there are you purchased, you bought them, they are yours. If for whatever reason, after the Bash, just like we do with the arcade now, if there's licenses that are expired or something and it doesn't let you play, you call me and I'll make sure you have either a DRM free version or I'll work with you to get your license fixed. But I will not let anybody have any game they purchase not be accessible anymore. Now, I can't promise online play for everything, but I can make sure, at least if you bought it, it's yours. Now, the only exception to that is Brass Hollow Point because it's fully online. When I have to sunset the server, that's it. But it's also coming with the Bash Box. It's not like you're paying for that either.
Okay, that's cool. There you go. Brooklyn, I want to address what you're saying here, Zod. I think you were reacting to a fake Brad account. I wasn't. That was the real Papa Brad. And how I know was that when you click on somebody's name, it says go to YouTube channel, and it takes me directly to Papa Brad's actual YouTube channel. If it was a fake Brad account, it would have taken me to one of those YouTube channels that were created that were just using his thing. So that was actually him, Brooklyn. So I just want to let you know that I was reacting to Papa Brad. Let's see here.
A view is a view to me. I don't care if they troll or
not. Yeah. Well, no. And listen. And I want to clarify this too. While I'm on the subject, I don't have a problem personally with anybody. I'm here interviewing Bill about the Bash Box. I'm interviewing you. We're talking about your new product. Anybody that wants to learn about this product is more than welcome to come in here and to ask questions and to have discourse the way that we've been doing it all night. I am not going to kick anybody out. Even when Brad was in here making the comments that he made about food stamps and all this other stuff, I wasn't kicking him, going to kick him out. I'm not mad at him. I don't have any issues personally with him. So if he wants to come in here and he has questions about the Bash Box and has things to say, that's fine. But I'm going to highlight the comment and I'm going to share the comment regardless, because these are questions. So if he wants to come at things from a respectful and adult, position, then yeah, he can ask his question. And to be fair, when he did ask his question with the food stamp slant, Bill still answered it. So I that should tell you everything you need to know about this show and what we're doing here.
What it is because again, I had this very public feud with Rexer, so I expected the trolling and stuff like that. But goes back to what I was saying before. Kind of, I had a couple of conversations with people who yelled at me for about Rexer that I don't think he actually got what I was trying. I didn't get what he was trying to do. I just saw that when he said stuff that he was saying, I took it personal because it's my product. This is something that I did work very hard on. Same time, I got to respect that people are going to criticize, people are going to ask questions, people are going to say a lot of things they said. I almost went there with Keo Daikin until I said, I'm going to call him. I called. Super good conversation.
I've talked to Keo quite a bit. Keo is quite intelligent, and he definitely breaks things down on levels I've never seen anyone do. That's one thing I've always loved about Keo Daikin, because he will dissect it to the smallest molecule, and so I kind of feel like from what you're saying, it sounds like you and him had a really good conversation.
Oh, we had an amazing conversation. Amazing conversation. And this wasn't, we didn't talk anything, non-NDAable or nothing like that. It was just, he talked about a lot of things. He made some points known that I didn't think about. He put a lot of things in perspective that I didn't think about. He was like, this ain't beef, ain't person. I don't even know you. It's like, he know me. And it was just that, when he said this, he was like, look, I can do the same things that Bobby Vu's showing off on these machines, on this machine. What can a Bash Box do differently? And I said, maybe I'm not showing enough of exclusivity. Maybe I'm not showing enough.
Right. Like he's showing things because Keo is showing a lot of things now that you can do on the Pi 5 with the Android aspect of it.
Of course.
And he's showing a lot. And I'm amazed because when Keo, I had Keo on this show not too long ago. And when Keo showed me some of the stuff that he was working on with the Pi 5, I was blown away because the Pi 5 is a single board computer. It's not,
now,
it's not.
Here's the thing
to do
where
so much.
The difference between me and him is that the emulators and stuff I'm able to create, I can make emulators now.
Yeah,
I can definitely code different UIs. I'm a software engineer too now. I'm nowhere near where Ryan, Acme Plus, and Hilo are, but I definitely can hold my own. But there's other things I've seen. Oh, thanks, Rainbow. There's other things that with him as a software engineer, and by trade, I'm a systems engineer, but within the software engineering realm, I've seen, I can do this and I can do that. But what I'm not good at is the actual usage of the application. So I know it's going to sound weird with different titles and stuff that we put out there that usually the community is able to make better. And that's another thing that I've seen is that even within the bash box, I'm going to see different community UIs. I'm going to see different community launchers. I'm going to see different community things that people are going to do that's going to amaze me. But within this realm itself, that I've seen is that there's a different perspective than I have, that I didn't take a step back to say, okay, this is how this is going. These are things that, even with Retro, again, very public beef, he's made some solid points. If you take away Papa Brad, same way, if you take away the trolling part of it and get to the nitty gritty, and if my wife is watching, she's going to fuss at me for saying, oh, now you think about this instead of without talking to you. But, if you take away the trolling, you take away the underlying anger or what have you, whatever personal feelings we have against you. Because again, I don't have to like these guys. I don't have to be in their personal space. I have to respect their space. I have to respect the underlying message of the bash box, because ultimately it's going to make the bash box better. But as far as I know, no one in the community has ever had complaints about any products that I've done or that that I did or didn't do. Only product that I worked on that people
bowling.
Well, even with bowling, let's talk about bowling. Bowling, when they had the complaints about bowling, it was a lot of it was corrected. A lot of it was technical limitations.
Very true.
And there's certain things that I couldn't fix too much because of the fact that it was on the iArcade, so $33.99 again is super limited. Even when I ported it to the at games, to the Legends, and I never released that one, but I was able to play it on there just fine. And I was able to correct a couple things there because they do have the same processor, the $33.99, but it's two different systems. And because of two different systems, the Linux version of it was a little bit better than the Android version. At the same time, it's still limited. So within the realm of working in the iArcade with bowling, when I brought it to the PC, everybody was like, it's night and day. The graphics are better. The bowling, it plays better. That stupid 9-pin thing that I couldn't get rid of then. I finally fixed it. But, stuff like that.
On the iArcade, the thing I got tired of gutter ball. I'll tell you, on the iArcade, for some reason, okay, when I play it when I play the Steam version on the PC, I don't have the same kind of issues that I had with the iArcade version, which is really where I understand where you're at when you say hardware limitations.
Yeah. So you could play games that were on Switch, but Donut Dodo is on Switch. And Donut Dodo, as great as a game as it is, it's not resource intensive. It's not meant to be. It's meant to play like the old school Popeyes, the old school Donkey Kongs. This was the intent of the game. That's why it works perfectly on a Pi Zero 2, because it was meant to not use all these resources. So yeah, you could technically play that type of stuff, but then with bowling was probably the first game to drain its resources. And when the first build of bowling kept overheating our iArcade, so I had to drop a lot of things down in order to make it work. So that's how we got with that. I'm pretty sure Renzo, if he's out there, shout out to him, because that's my guy. With him doing the Heavy Metal Titans, playing it on the iArcade, playing on the bash box, night and day. Graphically, it's completely different. It plays better. It's at 120 frames a second too at 1080p. So it's like it plays so much smoother. It's a different game. It's a different experience. It's a different experience than it was on the PC. And
bowling. Well, I'm just saying, bash bowling.
Army guy.
Bash bowling is a different experience on the PC than it is on the iArcade. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say that every issue that I have with the iArcade version is not present on the PC version. So that tells you everything you need to know about why there were issues. To me, I just,
it's funny.
I know the difference. Yeah.
Right. But the iArcade, Wizard of Walls and Circus Interstellar. Yeah. I had both of those on my iArcade. Wizard of Walls is still one of my favorite games because I love Wizard of War back in the day. I don't know why I like the game, but I love that game. So Wizard of Walls is one of my favorite games. Bought this for itch.io, put it on the bash box. Graphically, I don't know what exactly they were trying to do, or if they just, just targeted Android and just put it on the arcade because it didn't have to drain resources, but they must have had some super optimization because that game is pretty as hell. Like it's an amazing game on the Bash box. Then it has the whole 4K support, and I'm like, how the hell did they get this on the arcade? How does this work? It's the same thing with Circus Interstellar. Circus Interstellar looks the same way. It's like, you have certain things that they look like a design definitely for the arcade. You still see arcade controls, stuff like that. But when you play the game, it's like it's in 4K. How the hell these games get on arcade? But it's great, playing with those stuff.
Yeah, iArcade was definitely not 4K. Rainwater Game says, can't wait to see some YouTuber reviews of the Bash Box. Hey man, I can't wait to review it. I am like chomping at the bit to get my hands
I can't
on the
wait.
Bash
So
Box.
Here's the thing I think about too is that you'll have reviewers who like it, you have reviewers who don't like it. I'm interested in those who don't like it and why. I want to see how much of it is just you either don't like me or you have legitimate complaints. And this is where I want to see, because you don't like me, all right, cool, whatever. You don't have to like me. But if you have legitimate complaints that are something that I can fix, I don't know if you remember how me and Messiah became friends. That's what happened. It was because of bullying. It was they had this group that I
because of bullying. I think Messiah told me that story. It was because of bullying.
Yeah, it was bullying, and I went in a group because people were like, they're bashing it. I went on there with full intent on going ham on everybody. And I was like, no, let me have a discussion. What do you have this problem with bullying? Everybody started listing actual problems. Like that post looked like it should have been a GitHub bug report, and I was like, holy shit, these guys are right. So me and Fairs went back to the drawing board and said, okay, these are the problems these guys have. These problems these guys have. These are problems these guys have. Let's fix all this stuff. Let's put it back out there. We made Bash Bowling version 2. I even put a whole new UI on it because it's a whole different game. And everybody was like, you know what? All right, cool. No problems here. And then after that, everybody thought that place was a shill, was a Bash shill group because I came in and I listened. I always listen to everybody's criticism. And that's where I had to remember too, because I couldn't take the Bash Box. I take the Bash Box a little more personal because of the guys who work on it, but I can't take all this stuff personal. I can't take Rexer with me to bed. I'm going to go to bed with my wife. I'm going to go, I'm going to get up and play with my kids. I'm going to get up and start working on different things. I'm going to do things. And again, I'm not going to slight none of them. They got what they got to say about me. Rexer has it on me that because I did go ham and I went personal. I apologize and let it go. Publicly twice, and I'm not doing it again. But it's
we got Prince Malcolm in the chat. We got Prince Malcolm in the
Wizard
chat.
Of Walls.
Great Malcolm, what's up, man? Wizard of Walls is a monster on Steam. Yeah.
So a lot of these games that are coming to the iArcade, you can very much thank Prince Malcolm for. Prince Malcolm, when we saw what he was doing with the iArcade, I was like, Prince, man, I need you. I went to him and said, I need you, bro. Like I can't, because he has his way of talking to people. And then I guess it was with the iArcade, he didn't have the ability to negotiate. He didn't have a lot of things, but people still say, well, you brought us to the iArcade, so it's your fault. Now it's like, okay, Prince will say, hey, I got with this guy. All right, well, make the deal. He's like, huh? Make the deal. Like, all right, tell him this is what we're offering. If you like him, cool. If you don't like him, that's cool too. But make the deal. So Prince Malcolm, if he says, Bill, this game is coming to Bash Box, this game is coming to Bash Box. It's not something he has to ask me. I always say I'm the CEO because my name is on it, Bash, and I was just here first. That's it. Because whatever my team says do, listen, we argue all the time. My VP.
That's what makes you. That's what makes you a suitable CEO. The fact that you listen to your team and you go along with your team, and you guys always you work together, and that's a beautiful thing. That's why I just listen. What I love about it, and what gets me even more and more excited for the Bash Box than anything else, apart from my feelings towards you and the product that you're making and the team and everything, is just the way that you are totally 100% all about your developers. You want to make sure your developers are comfortable. You want your developers to, be able to make the best products that they can. And it just sounds so amazing. It sounds like the great kind of chemistry that we need for the Bash Box to be a success. And Rocky is making some some assumptions too. He says John D and Bash and Unico. That's a strong combo. Who would have thought? Well, that like Console Fanboy says, that's a trifecta. John D will need to remix his poem.
So John D has been a mentor for me in a different space. So everybody knows Jay Mason. I talk about Jay Mason all the time.
Jay is cool. I
don't need to go beat that horse, but John D
like
has taken on role with my big brother. He's been schooling me to the game. He just texted me and said, make sure I don't say too much. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that me and him talk about all the time. I talked to him a couple days ago, like midnight my time, because it's like 7 o'clock his time, but it's we were talking about different things to do with the bash box and a couple things he needed me to do, but ultimately there's a lot of things he's just put in place with me. So me, him, and Jay, these guys are like, look, we think you could do this, and even if you don't, we got your back, because we feel like we believe in what you're trying to do. So that's why these guys are working with me. That's why Unico's even trying to put out this box with me. That's where John D's mentoring me with a lot of different things. So I tell I've seen people say they want John D to go back to Arcade One Up. I don't at all. I want him to stay exactly where he is, because where he is, it's not just me he's helping. There's a lot of people he's making some moves out there, and I can't wait for him to talk. Because right now he's laying low, he's making some things happen, but John D has made some moves happen. He's not coming in here. I can tell you that right now. Don't even think about it. But he's he's made some moves that I can't talk about, but he needs to tell people it's not just me. It's not just me he's taking on his role to. John D has been like, okay, cool. I'm leaving Arcade One Up. I'm going to let other people do the same thing Arcade One Up do. I'm going to let other people build them up. I'm going to teach everybody the game. I'm going to connect everybody with everybody else. His vision is on a grander scale of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do a small part of what he's trying to do on a big scale. And I think, when you see things out there, he's going to have his stamp on it. He's going to have his logo on it. He's going to have different things going on with it. So when he wants to talk about it, I can't wait, because, it's not like an NDA or anything. That's my big bro. So I'm respecting his wishes on not telling everything that's going on from there.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it, and yeah, Console Fanboy, that's definitely something that I want to do. I've actually DM'd him about it. Hopefully, at some point we can make that happen, because
when John D comes and starts telling. It's funny. People are still going to not like him. People are still going to, go from here. But we kind of went back with that too. Is that, what you've done for me, I want you, I want to see when you tell people what you've done for other people. It's not just me. It's a lot of different things that happen with that. Can't talk about that right now. I have to let him tell that. It's the reason why I can't talk about it. It's actually a huge reason why I can't talk about it. But they will. Jay and John D will both talk about it once a few other things happen.
Well, see, that's a dream. That's a dream stream. That's a dream stream for me. Jay, John D, we'll get Jay, John D, Chris, and Bill, and we'll just have a big powwow. That'll be.
I promise you, that's going to be the stream to watch when we talk about what we worked on, what the things happened. A lot of questions are going to be answered. A lot of things people are going to be like, holy shit, this is what was happening. This is why Bill keeps saying, no, stay where you are. I definitely can see Bashbox being huge for all of the reasons that we talked about so far. And so. One thing I want to ask you is, like, you had said something about the fact that earlier about it bundling it with a controller. There was some discussion about it not being bundled with a controller, or that it always should be bundled with a controller because of it being a plug and play thing. My question is, do you consider the Bashbox to be a plug and play system? Is that what that's the idea of it right now. It's a plug and play console. It's something that you plug in and play. That's all the whole Bashbox goal is. You'll be able to grab different titles on things from there, but the whole idea isn't so much as for just for iArcade people to be able to connect to their stuff, for Nova Blast people to connect to their stuff. It's for you to have something you can pick up and play exactly how you want to. And what Neo's asking about, pretty much an in controller. Before I got my actual Bashbox controller in, when we went back and forth, because the Bashbox controller, I didn't like it the first iteration because, again, I couldn't play King of Fighters on it. If I can't play King of Fighters, I can't play Street Fighter on it. I don't even want it. So we went back and forth, and it's good. But I've used my Xbox controller. I used my PS5 controller, so I didn't have to use my mouse for a lot of different things from there. I've used different.
Does it work well with 8BitDo controllers?
Yes. So funny story about that. Polycade sent me some Polycade branded 8BitDo controllers, so
nice,
because they were interested too.
Polycade has a pretty nice system. They have a pretty nice UI and a little store as well. I've tried out Polycade.
Oh yeah, so yeah. Polycade, we got our games on Polycade too. Bowling's on Polycade.
Yeah, I saw. I was gonna say I saw that.
Our games are on Polycade, and our games are. I know Time Killers is online on Polycade. I didn't put Bloodstorm online on Polycade. If Bashbox can use John D, I wish people stop asking me these questions. I can't, not because I don't want to answer, but because I really, really want to answer.
Are you guys using the same or similar SBC as the Kin Hank Super Console X5 Pro? Ritual Adello, you missed this. We talked about this.
Yeah, it's
today when Rexer was in here. Yeah,
I was pretty certain it was an Amlogic S905, which is it's not as powerful as the 3588. It's for what it's for. You'll be able to play some PS2 games on there, I believe, too, on an Amlogic, but it's not. It has its purpose. It's definitely not competition for the Bashbox, because it's a different brand of game system. It's something to grab a whole bunch of ROMs and be able to play, just smoothly.
Oh, you're talking about when you say the Fun R1, you're talking about the Unico, the Unico control deck, right, Neo? That's right. The Unico control deck with the gray one that came out not too long ago.
Right. So yeah, and that's what. And if I'm wrong about the new X5, somebody correct me in the chat, because I want to give accurate information. So yeah, if it's the Kinect, the Fun R1, so the Super Console X5, I'm almost certain it's using an Amlogic S905 again. If I'm wrong, somebody in the chat correct me, and I'll definitely.
Ritual Adello says it uses a 3588. I don't know.
Oh, then yeah, it's probably the same processor, probably same. I don't know how much RAM is in there. I would imagine somewhere between 4 and 8 gigs. I could be wrong, because I got a Console X Pro too. So the ones I've been playing, I think just now was starting to be able to play Vita.
Yeah, I never bought a Super Console X. I
love them things. I love them.
I mean, I play my Bobby Sarah, which is a Bobby Voo PC that runs everything pretty awesome. So I don't really.
But stuff like that, they have their purpose. It's not like I never discredit this stuff, because I buy them. So it's like I'm a consumer of them too. It's just that the Bashbox, I want a place where indie devs could come in and say, okay, I have a game, I want to get it out there to people. Let's get it out there to people. I mean, if you want to give it away for free, give it away for free. If you want to sell it, sell it. Right now, itch.io is full of games that people don't. Some people get on there and play, some people don't. But it's even then, the bigger indie titles are getting front page news, where some smaller ones aren't, because of the same reasons I mentioned with Steam and all the rest of that stuff. So I want people to have a place where their games are in the forefront. And even then, I will be working with different teams to make sure indie developers are getting equal space, equal time, to make sure I'm not doing the same thing. Make sure I don't get caught up in the same thing with Steam do. So it's like bigger guys, more popular ones, don't get more play or get more screen time than smaller ones. I want everybody to be able to get their games out and show forefront.
Okay, so Ritual Adello says that the Super Console X, it has the 3588 with 8 gigabytes of RAM.
Yeah, it's same specs then. Thanks, Richard, because I was under the impression it was an Amlogic S905. So I'm thinking about the one that I bought there, because the one I bought is definitely not a 3588.
Yeah. So but see, the thing is, you've actually bought Super Console X products, which is, for me, I just kind of, it's, but it's like there's all these hard drives and all these various versions of that type of thing on Amazon. So,
Oh yeah. And that's where the Bash Box has to stand out. It has to be something where people can come in and get games that you can't just buy or on those on those machines. You can't just, you might be able to play a lot of different ROMs that we're going to sell, but our experience is going to be different. Just like people on the arcade, every single game on the arcade people bought is the same games you could download.
And you could buy them cheaper on Steam, all of them. And you could buy them on the Switch.
You could do different too. That never stopped everybody from being able to get the same games. They want to be able to play them online. I play Breaker's Revenge online all the time. I stopped playing on iArcade because I was literally better than everybody in iArcade. I needed to be able to play against people that I could play against my skill level. But I still bought Breaker's Revenge because it's one of my favorite games.
Oh yeah.
I also have a Breaker's Revenge cartridge. So, I'm going to buy Breaker's Revenge. These same games that people pay for, they want experience, they want support. They don't want to load ROMs all the time. People who can load ROMs and do stuff like that, you'll be able to do that with the Bash Box too, because you can download different things from Google Play. You could download different things from different stores, but you definitely can't really do the same things on the Bash Box right now that you can do with other systems. That's why the Bash Box is the Bash Box.
Console Fanboy wants to know, Bill, have you ever thought to turn the Bash Box into a handheld like an Ambernick?
Not the Bash Box. So I teased a little bit not too long ago about the Pocket Bash. I don't want to talk too much about this yet because that goes back to the rebranding and new partnerships, but we already have a handheld in the works. It's not going to be it'll probably be about as powerful as the old Ambernicks, but it's because it's designed to run the games that it's going to run. And it's also going to be cheap. It's going to be $149.
Well, there you go. There you go, Console Fanboy, a direct answer to that question. And yeah, I'm thinking about all of the different things that we're going to be able to do with the Bash Box, the differences and all this great stuff. It seems like as a company, Bash Gaming, I feel like, and this is just me, I just have this hunch that the Bash Box is just the beginning for Bash Game.
So it's a little both. So it's full circle with the things I wanted to do in life. As a kid, I wanted to make video games. I wanted to be able to make video games on my own consoles. I wanted to be able to do my own hardware thing, and I had to get to a point in my life to where I had the time to do it because, I've worked for SNK, I worked for Nintendo, I worked for different companies like this, but what I didn't get to do was do it for myself. And I didn't, I've been able to do amazing things in the community, and I've been able to do different things at the same time, be able to take care of my family. So again, gaming doesn't take care of my family. I take care of my family within my own paycheck. So I get, again, this is my hobby. This is something I love to do. And I do a lot of these things for a lot of the community members who want to do different things. So even, when we did Primal Rage, I was trying to sell to WB. And once WB didn't express any more interest in it, I gave it to the community. Nobody cared. And I just let this stuff happen out there. So it's different things.
I think Primal Rage should be a pack-in game for the Bash Box.
If I could get Primal Rage as a pack-in, I would put it on our own emulator. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to make Primal Rage on a Bash Box with our emulation, not because I don't want to get that out there or, I can't get WB licensing. It's that the way we did Primal Rage, the community got it. And once the community was able to do different things with it, I would rather not take that and monetize it myself. If WB wants to monetize it for their purposes, they would, but I would rather not. I would rather the community keep it to where it is and not keep it as something that we're gatekeeping. Let's put it that way.
Okay. And Console Fanboy says, just give me Run and Gun 2 and we're good.
So
did you know Run and Gun 2 is a pack-in game?
Console fanboy, give me $50,000. Let me borrow that, and I'll get Run and Gun 2 because that's how much it's going to cost me, and I don't have $50,000 right now.
It really is 50 grand for Run and Gun 2?
Yes, very much so.
Wow. I
So
mean,
licensing costs a lot of money, and a lot of it's iArcade's fault. But licensing costs a lot of money.
I can understand. I can totally understand. It's like when you say iArcade and you say fault, it all just clicks. You don't have to say anything else. It's just like, yep.
It's because iArcade, with a lot of these other titles, they even with us, Incredible Technology took a chance on us with the titles they gave us. They didn't really care. You know, once they got paid from it, they were like, "Holy shit, we get money! You're actually giving us checks. People are buying these. There, yes, people like these games. I told you." But you know, Golden Tee is a little bit different. You know, Golden Tee people actually that's something they active development. But the games that I wanted, they're important to me, and that's why I wanted them. So you know, those games are a little bit different. But those Sega titles that cost $500 to almost $1 million to get, that aren't worth anywhere near that. This is why other companies are like, well, if they don't give us that, we want this too.
So like you know, for like a Sega title. What's one Sega title, if you could have it on the Bash box, if you could have it right now?
If I had one Sega title right now, that would be my Sega title to have, would be the arcade version of Michael Jackson's Moonwalker.
I wonder what the licensing for that is. Probably $1 million, right?
No, it ain't no million. You need more than $1 million because you got to pay for Michael Jackson's likeness, and that's at least $3 million. There's, you know, if I could get Sega to give me something, I would probably realistically would probably be Eternal Champions CD because that's like one of my favorite games. But
and you could put that on the Bash box. That's the other question I got. Thank you for saying Eternal Champions CD, because now I gotta ask. I know you can't talk specifically about licensing, but given the fact that Bash box is a console, are you also looking at the possibility of officially licensing console games?
Yes, very much so. I've been trying to for the past few months. A lot of the games I'm trying to get are console games. You know, even a lot of them you don't really have to, because you know, going back to the Bash box and Google Play, I downloaded Devil May Cry and it's perfect on the Bash box. I downloaded Call of Duty,
Castlevania Symphony of the Night,
Dead Cells, the Castlevania edition. There's a lot of console games that are already on Google Play that you could just play on the Bash box, and you don't really have to license them because you can just buy them from Google Play.
Or if you have Netflix, you can have the Android version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, and you can run that.
And then you got all the Grand Theft Autos, and they have a lot of titles that just runs on the Bash box. So it's not licensing for some of that stuff wouldn't make any sense, because it would be me paying licensing fees for the same game people would just buy in the Bash box anyway. So if you take something like Mega Man Dive Offline, that's like $30 on Google Play. If you could just download it from Google Play, why pay the money to license that title? It doesn't make any sense.
And as long as it's compatible, again, through that ecosystem, and it's gonna run perfect on the Bash box because it's native to that environment. So that's perfectly fine. That gives you a leg up on all the games that, outside of the ones that you'll license, the exclusive ones that you'll license, all the ones that are already available, and then the stuff people will add themselves that they just want to play. And Console Fanboy wants to know, and this is another big question: how much for the MK4 license? Seriously,
I have absolutely no idea. MK4, I believe Arcade 1-Up actually has licensing. I can't confirm. That's not part of my day with them, so I don't know. I don't know how much it's going to cost for MK4. I can imagine with MK1 coming out now, it's probably going to be a lot. MK4, I think the bigger problem with MK4 isn't the licensing. I think the problem with MK4 is making it work. And John D left, so I'm not about to spend time on it.
But John D wasn't a big Mortal Kombat fan anyway. I mean, for real.
John D is a big community fan.
Yeah.
John D does not give a shit about Mortal Kombat. I promise you. John D cares about the community. When community started asking for MK4, that's when he started making stuff happen. Community started asking for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. That's when he put stuff in it. He put stuff in the works. So the community, that's what he told me with Primal Rage. Get people playing on Fight Kit, get people out there in the community. I said, all right, I'll do you one better. I made, I worked with Tile Killer. We got Moon Emulation, and he built the one specifically for Primal Rage. And, WB still didn't express any interest. So whatever.
I wonder why WB would just want to leave money on the table like that. But we're talking about WB here. They're not a very smart company. They haven't been for a long time, so I don't know. But it just really,
you got to think in the grand scheme of things that we consider a lot of money isn't a lot of money to them. So if for it to be worth it, Primal Rage would have to sell 100,000 copies. Primal Rage is not going to sell 100,000 copies, even if it was $1. So WB, for that to be worth it for WB, we'd have to guarantee 100,000 copies. I can't guarantee 100,000 copies of Primal Rage. I don't think I could guarantee 100,000 copies of Mortal Kombat 4. I probably could guarantee 100,000 copies of Mortal Kombat 3, but not Mortal Kombat 4. And the reason why is because Mortal Kombat 4 itself was kind of panned, and that's why they might be reticent to do it. But I think Arcade 1-Up still has it. I'm not sure. That'd be a John D question.
They don't think they probably, and it's like you said, they probably don't think they could make a return on that investment even if they have the license.
Yeah, and then the problem with Mortal Kombat 4 is that to get that working, they would have to go to either Digital Eclipse or Code Mystics to get it done fast. I know people who got Mortal Kombat 4 working on some low end stuff, so it's not like it's not impossible. I've seen Mortal Kombat 4 perfectly emulated, but it costs money. I wouldn't do it for less than like $20,000 myself. So I can imagine what with the Code Mystics were charged for something like that. It'd have to be at least 100, and I don't think they want to pay that. And then even if they do pay that, that means the technology behind it isn't going to be worth it, to play online. So you're going to have those problems.
And Steps Gaming wants to know, do you know who owns Legendary Axe? Please get Legendary Axe. Legendary Axe needs to make a return.
Prince Malcolm, if you're still here, look that up. I'll see what I can do.
See, that's all. See, these are you're getting at. You see, you guys are getting answers. I told you, you'll get answers.
What? My wife is bugging me. I gotta get going.
All right. Well, you know what? We'll go ahead then and wrap everything up at this point. If you're, and I'll, we'll bring you back on again closer to the release of Bash Box to really prop it up.
Oh yeah.
I definitely want to try this. I definitely want to get hands on with this unit and see what's going on. I'm getting so excited.
Definitely.
I'm so hyped up. It's unbelievable.
I will say this. There's a lot of love that went into this unit. There's a lot, and that's why I get a little heated over the Bash Box, but there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into this, and then that's just mine. If it was just mine, if it was just me, I wouldn't be as angry, but there's so many people who worked on this. Prince Malcolm every single day, Daniel Watson, Ryan Souders, Fairs Baker. There's a couple of guys who don't come on these streams, who don't come on any streams because their mind is solid focused on development. They really don't want to be on these streams. But ultimately, there's a lot of people who put a lot of effort in, put a lot of work in. Mensa and Dom, they constantly, we're talking all the time, all night. There's a lot of different people who worked a lot on this stuff. So, I'm doing this for them. I stay with this for them because a lot of times I just be like, I don't want to do this anymore. But then I get up to the chat, Mensa then said something, Ryan coming up with a new, with these things he made. Every day I wake up to these guys. I've already talked. I get up at 6 o'clock. These guys have been talking since 4. So, I do this because, again, I do love the game. Don't get me wrong. And no matter how hard it gets, I got a strong team behind me that makes sure that I'm up every day making sure this happen. So I'm making sure the guys who did, we got hundreds of pre-orders right now. These guys are going to get their boxes out. And once they get their boxes out, then everybody's going to be able to see what it is. Everybody's going to be able to play the stuff that we got. I'm going to be fully supporting this unit. I tell people all the time, I'm not the celebrity guy. I'm not like a Harada or Ed Boon. Most people know how to reach me on Messenger. That's why I don't see how rumors get started about me, because it's like, My inbox is open. Just ask me. But you didn't go to me and say, hey, this is what we do. This is how we have this. If you have any problems with it, then come to me. I'll try to rectify it. When people buy them and say, okay, I want to see this happen. I want to see that happen to the amount that I can, I'm going to make it happen. And if I can't make it happen, I'll eventually make it happen.
Well, there you go. And then we got one more question before we wrap this up. Neil wants to know, will there be color choices for the Bash box?
It was initially going to be that in the plan, but me and Jay went back to the board and said, to produce those, we can't do it right now to produce multiple colors. So we stuck with yellow because yellow is me and my son's favorite color, and we're gonna keep that there. Plus, it emphasizes again, it's something fun to have. It's not going to be this serious console. You plug it into your TV, you play whatever you want to play, but it will have color choices later, just not right now.
All right. And yeah, Ritual Della, we talked about Fightcade and other online applications earlier in the stream, so you might want to just go back.
It runs and stream.
Check out the earlier thing, and it does run and stream.
Yeah, it definitely runs and stream. Everything runs and stream. If the Bash box didn't run and stream, I would go back to the drawing board.
Everything, Xbox runs and stream. Everybody's got and stream. And you know what? Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Bill, for being here. We're going to definitely
Thank you.
Again. Good night, everyone.